Hi there, my name is Toby and this is a 9-minute workout focusing on body alignment and lymphatic drainage. We're relaxing the body, relaxing the joints and shaking it all out. But we're also trying to improve our alignment, the structure of our body, and when we move we're trying to bounce through that structure. So we're opening up the joints, stretching up, so here you can see a nice tall spine, belly pulled in, sternum tilted slightly up, shoulders up and back, chin in, and also you can feel a nice stretch all the way up through your spine from the sacrum to the crown. And now standing up tall, you squeeze the glutes, so that's driving your pelvis forward, but you've still got a backwards arch, you've still got to pull your belly in. Then holding the legs straight, just bouncing on the ankles. And you feel like you're leaning back a little bit. Leaning back, that'll give you a stretch through the whole body structure, and you're bouncing through the stretch. Now these are very easy exercises, but do be careful. You're opening up and stretching in ways you might not have done before, so you must feel what you're doing and take it easy, take it slow. And here in between, always relax like this, shake it all out, make sure there's no residual tension in the body, no pain. There should never be any pain. This should all feel nice. It should feel very pleasant. So now we're just bending our knees a little bit, toes slightly out, and you're sitting down like in a chair. You project the hips a little bit backwards, pull the belly in. So now we're including the hip joint. So you've got to feel that the joint itself is working. So there's a backwards projection, and now when you bounce, do a little jump again on the ankles. You're using the hip joint as well. There's a little bit of a leverage in the hips. So now we're using the knees, but we're being very careful to take the pressure in the ankles and the hips. As you go lower, you see you project the hips further. As you come up, the hips go in a bit. So that's how you work it. And always keeping a neutral spine, belly pulled in, slight backwards arch in the spine. So you haven't compromised the spine, you're taking the movement into the hip joint itself and bouncing through the legs all the way down to the ankles. And holding the spine nice, the shoulders still up and back a little bit, your arms at the sides, and you've got a nice stretch even into the neck. And again, after that, loosen up. So we're bouncing through, we're trying to feel a springiness and elasticity in the body. I also call this elastic power. But when we do this, we're moving the joints and we're moving the lymphatic system very effectively, and we're also creating blood flow. And you might feel blood rushes. You get a blood rush when you relax. Very good sign. You want these blood rushes. And there we were just twisting left and right, loosening up the spine, but keeping the alignment. We're trying to find a better alignment, all the time improving our posture. Now what we're doing is isolating the hip joint. So a nice straight body, you squeeze the glutes, it's all in the glutes, lever forward, and then you lever backwards like this, project the hips back. So you push forward, and then you lever forward. So the hips go back, and now the hips go forward. And you're isolating entirely into the hip joint. You're trying to feel the stretch right between the thigh bones and the hips. It's the ligaments in the hip joint themselves. And now you rise up onto the toes as you go forward and sink back to the heels as you go back. And you'll feel that the whole body works together. You're using the alignment to bend in half. You're levering in half at the hip joint itself. And again, loosen up, shake it all out. So now we're going to try to put this all together into moving towards a whole body bounce. But what we're doing here is standing up nice and straight again, a slight bend in the knees, but you're trying to use the whole leg, the ankles, you're on the ball of the foot, the knee, the hip, keeping the belly pulled in so you can feel the bounce rise up through the spine. And now what you're trying to do is loosen up the shoulders. So when you jump up, the shoulders go up. You're relaxing the shoulders, and when you fall down, the shoulders drop down. You're trying to create a transmission of force, a flow. This is a wave that flows through the body. So it's from the ground, you pump up from the ground, it throws up through the spine and throws the shoulders up, and you just relax out the hands, relax out the fingers, and when they drop, you'll feel it relaxing and relaxing. So this is a very efficient way of movement using structure and alignment. And now I'm putting it together a bit more, moving towards an actual jump. So you can see this functionality is the basis for jumping. So you're not just using the muscles, what you're using is the joints, the ligaments in the joints. I've got a stretch through the joints, a bounce in the joints, and I'm synchronizing the movement of the joints to create a jump. And it flows through the body all the way up to the shoulders and down the arms. So this is the bounce that I'm trying to create. This is internal power. So it's a real power that flows through your body. You'll feel it, and as you flows through, it moves the joints. You'll feel them opening and stretching and loosening up. So this is where you've got to be careful. If the alignment is wrong and you're relaxing your joints, you can hurt yourself. So it will build up to this very, very slowly. Now what we're doing is going side to side, so we're isolating one side of the body to the other. We're making a change. So he's still sitting in a horse riding stance. The knees must bend over the toes, so the toes are pointing slightly outwards. Now you're shifting your weight and just twisting a little bit side to side. So I'm feeling a stretch in the hip joint. I'm still sitting back in a chair, so the hips have got a slight backwards projection, belly pulled in, and from that sitting in a chair feeling, I'm stretching the hips and twisting them. So the back hip twists and the front hip. I sink my weight to the front hip and the back hip will twist. Now holding the arms up, again you can extend that twist now a little bit through the spine, up through to the shoulders. I'm not doing a full twist as far as I can go. I'm trying to feel this internally. I'm stretching open the joints. I'm bouncing from one leg to the other leg. So you can see there's the bounce. You're pushing into the ground. This is bouncing through the knee, through the hip, through the spine, up to the shoulder with a twisting motion. So, and you're doing it very slowly, very carefully, just trying to feel the internal flow, the internal bounce. It feels very pleasant, and you'll feel there's energy, there's power, but you're not really doing much work, because the tendons, the ligaments in the joint are very strong and they're elastic, and the trick is to try and activate them. So now here I'm showing you again moving towards martial arts. From this horse riding stance, I've got a spring in the hip joint. It's bouncing. I'm using the bounce, and I'm also spring loading the knee and the ankle. So I'm sinking into one leg to the other leg, but it's like I'm spring loading it and then releasing that. So a bounce. It's an elastic band, but it comes from connecting all the joints together and then flowing a sequence of movements through that, which they call a kinetic chain. It's a whip, a wave that flows through the body, an elastic power. And that's what we're trying to work on here, this feeling of a bounce through the body. And the benefits are very, very good for you as well. As I said, it moves the blood, it moves the lymphatic system, it will prevent arthritis, it keeps the joints supple, it keeps your mobility going, and it doesn't matter how old you are. So my friend here is an older gentleman. He's also recovering from a stroke. Now I'm pushing into him and he's trying to absorb it into his structure, and what we're doing now is if I suddenly let go, it should bounce back. So this is the bounce we're trying to create. So as I push into him, he's got to absorb it through his elbow, through his shoulder, through his spine, through his hip, his knee, right down to the ball of the foot on the back leg. So he feels every single joint stretching and compacting. So he's being compacted, but he's creating a resistance in such that it will bounce back. So it's tricky to do, tricky to understand, but here, let me show you now on my side. So he's pushing me, so you can see as he pushes in, it's like I'm collapsing in, like a what do you call it? A jack in a box. A jack in a box collapses down and then it springs back again. Well, it's literally a spring, a coiled spring. You're coiling into the spring through the structure, through the ligaments, and then if he lets go, it will be a bounce. And you're not working. It's very important you just feel that bounce naturally. You're not doing any work for that bounce. Now walking around. So this is again how we can do this all day long. You're feeling a bounce as you walk, and you've got to take it on the ball of the foot. You're not going heel down, it's always the ball of the foot, keeping the alignment of the spine, bouncing in the legs. That bounces the shoulder and it creates a swing in the arm. So you're feeling the whole body working together. There you see the bounce from the leg goes up through the spine to the shoulder, and there's a counter twist between the arms and the hips. So it's all about the maintaining the alignment of the spine and getting this movement, this rhythmic movement from the spine and bouncing between the arms and the legs. And now you can see how this same basic movement becomes all sort of martial arts. Every sort of functional movement can be built from that. So that's why we practice that, trying to feel the internal bounce going on, and this will help the flow of energy. You'll feel it. Okay, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this little workout, and I look forward to seeing you in any of these other videos here.